All right, so we are live, and I am here with Miss Suzanne Kirk, who is a human resources extraordinaire. She does everything. She knows all things, and we're
All the
very
things.
and we're very fortunate to have her to join in with us today to talk about careers in human resources. This is part of our lecture series with the Savannah Metro Rotary Club, and so we're so glad to be partnering with them. So, Ms. Kirk, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, some of your hobbies, interests, things like that.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Toronto, Ontario. So I'm a Canadian. And when I was 17, right before my senior year, I like to say my parents brought me kicking and screaming from Toronto to Atlanta. That's a tough time to move, right? But it was a great experience for me. So we moved to Atlanta. I lived a big chunk of my life in Atlanta. And with the exception of 3 years in Boston, the rest of my life has been here in Savannah. So we've been here in Savannah for many years. I went to Georgia State University in Atlanta, and so I have a bachelor's degree in marketing and business management because I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I ended up going back and getting a master's degree in human resources development once I realized that, I have found my place in the world of human resources. So I went and got my master's in that. And so I live in Savannah. I work from my home now because I had an office downtown. And then during COVID, I'm like, why am I paying money for this office? Because I'm not going there. And so I work from home now, which has its ups and downs. And the dog will probably start barking at some
That's
point. Yeah. And I work with clients. Mostly smaller businesses that aren't big enough to have their own human resources person on staff. So I am an extension of the organization. I help them set up the HR infrastructure. I help them with all of their human resources needs. And I do a lot of work with nonprofits as well in that regard. And I do for some clients some more training and development components. So more that organizational development specific component of HR. So that's me. And I have 3 kids. I have a senior in high school. That's crazy. And I have a sophomore and I have a 7th grader. So 2 girls and a boy.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned Georgia State. We have a ton of kids who just been accepted to
Awesome.
Georgia State. Many of them are going into the business field. So that's great
Yep.
to hear you, talk about that. What when you were at Georgia State, what were some of the, I guess, some of the things that allowed you to be successful as you kind of matriculated and moved through your college experience?
Absolutely. So I think the Georgia State of today is perhaps a different Georgia State than it was when I went there because it's been a minute since I was there. But my experience there, it was, being at the time a fairly non-traditional campus. People talked about it like the concrete campus is what they
Mhm.
call it. It was more of a commuter school back then because at that point when I was there, they didn't have campus housing at all. So my experience there was more you had to seek involvement. You had to look out opportunities to be involved. You had to look for opportunities to be engaged and look out for those things because they weren't naturally happening as they would maybe a little bit more on a traditional college campus where you're living there, right? So as someone that commuted to and from school, I had to go find those opportunities. So I really had to make more of an effort, I think, to get involved in things. And I think that's really important that yes, you go to for those that choose to go on to more of a traditional next step after high school, go to college and go to university, then that is something that it's more about the classes, right? It's more than just about the classes. You have to look for those opportunities to get engaged and find a club that's for you and find an organization that's about the profession that you're interested in and find people that you want to get involved with. Even on the social side of things, they didn't have a Greek life even back when I went to school there. And I understand they've got more of a Greek life option now. So find ways to get involved outside of just your classes and your curriculum would be my 2 cents.
Okay. So you mentioned marketing, but now you're
Mhm.
in human resources. So what was that moment? What was that aha moment that you had where you said, you know what? Human resources is the way to go for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. And I think a lot of people sort of fall into the world of human resources. It's not unusual, but for me, so I was a marketing major and I thought I wanted to be in the world of retail. I was fascinated, and still am a little bit, about how retail works, especially if you think about shopping at a big box store, whether it be in person or online, just the logistics of how the inventory works, So when you go to Walmart and they scan, a Coca-Cola, for example, they know that one Coke just came out of inventory and it's time to order another one, right? So that kind of thing, just the whole model, the whole process of it, I found very interested. I was very interested in it. And so I wanted to be in the world of marketing and retail and business. And then I started to work in the retail field and it's hard. And it just wasn't a fit for me. It wasn't something that I could see myself doing. I also was interested in marketing from sort of a consumer behavior perspective. And I learned that meant a lot of research and data, which is interesting, but I didn't want to actually do the research and the data gathering. And so that to me, I was like, I don't think this is really the right fit for me. But I was still interested in retail. And so I took a job. My first job out of college was I worked for Walmart, the big picture mothership of Walmart, the corporate entity. And we were in the division for new store training and development. And so we would go and hire everybody and train everybody to open a new Walmart. And I was still in Atlanta at that time, and that market was booming. And so there was Walmarts being built all over the city. And so we would either go hire, train everybody and open a new store, or we were doing a lot of store expansions at the time. And so for me, even though you're like, oh, she worked at Walmart, haha, that's funny. But man, you talk about learning retail and you talk about learning that industry, that's the place to learn it. And so I got to go to Bentonville, Arkansas, and I got to go to their home office and, drink the Kool-Aid of Sam Walton back in the day. But I learned so much. When I started in that program, you learn every aspect of store operations and you work every aspect of store operations. So I learned to work hard. I have unloaded dog food trucks on the third shift overnight. I have used a pallet jack, and I will tell you that a pallet of dog food weighs a lot. And it was really, really hard work. But what I fell in love with was the new hire experience and how we welcomed a new employee on board, how we got them excited to be part of building something, because we were building a new Walmart store. And it was just the formation of a team, and then teaching someone how to be successful in their job and training them in their role was really exciting to me. And that's when I realized, oh, I could go and do this full time and learn all the aspects of human resources. That was just sort of one slice of the pie of all things HR. And that made me want to learn more, because I loved that interaction. I love to see somebody come on board and you help them set them up to be successful, and you help them go forth into their new job. And so that's when I knew, okay, the HR world is where I want to be.
Wow. And you've pivoted from working at Walmart, which is, probably one of the largest, most recognizable brands, to now being your own business, you owning your own business, and being an entrepreneur. What has been some of the challenges that you faced in making that transition?
Well, it took many years, for one, right? So I worked a lot of various positions and a lot of jobs that gave me the experience to now be a consultant as I am today. And so I meet with people a lot that say, I want to do what you do. I want to be an independent consultant. I think there's more appetite. There's more need for that. Our economy is very much a gig economy. But to be a consultant, at least, you really have to have the experience under your belt. You have to have been in different environments and learned a lot. So I think the message there is, any job that you have, it might not be your forever job, but you will learn something. I would encourage you to find what you can learn from it, right? You can take something away from every environment. So I worked in very different industries. I worked in the natural gas industry. I worked in that utility world during the deregulation of Georgia's natural gas industry, which was interesting. We were the trainers for the call center people. So if somebody had a question about their gas bill, they would call, and we trained the people that answered the phones in the call center, right? So that was still, again, the training and development component of HR. And then I worked for a large consulting firm that was kind of born as an ad agency, and then they had grown into really more of a consulting business. And so our department was called People Solutions. And so we were the the training group that would come out. And if we had to train some group of employees in context of a marketing product rollout, we were the people to go and do the training. So I worked in a lot of different environments, and I learned a lot of aspects of HR. And then during that time, I went back to school and got my master's degree. And I will say one thing that's becoming more and more the gold standard for a profession in human resources is there's now a certification, and there has been a certification in place for many years, but it's becoming more of an expectation. I think it's very difficult for someone to seek a job in HR now if they don't hold a certification. So the Society for HR Management, or SHRM is the acronym that people refer to it as, has a certification that I would highly encourage anyone that's in the field to get affiliated with SHRM if they're interested in HR. And then once they are out in the workforce and working, to pursue that certification, because there's a lot of knowledge that comes with it. So then having that experience gave me the opportunity to say, you know, I can do this for people on my own. I can be an entrepreneur, but it's a big leap, right? It's a big jump to, you know, I know when I go to work for somebody else and I have a job that it's their job to figure out the bottom line of things to pay me as an employee. When you're the boss and the employee, if you're not working, you're not making money, right? And so for me, I joke, like the first 2 years, it was like, every day I'm hustling. You know, I was always out there. I was networking. I was getting my name out there because when we moved to town, I was traveling a lot in my old job. And so I didn't make connections here in the community. So you've got to work on your networking, getting to know people, and just staying on someone's radar screen, right? I learned when I moved to Savannah that, I guess, the sales cycle, if you will, that sort of dating in a business opportunity before you put a ring on it takes longer here, right? So you might go have coffee and talk about a business opportunity, but then you might meet again and you might have a follow-up phone call. And investing the time in relationships, I learned, was very important. I learned that you don't want to come out as, you know, I'm here to sell you what I can do for you. It was more be quiet and listen and ask the questions about what are you seeing in your business? What are your pain points? How can I help you? Maybe is where the conversation goes, but not leading with, let me tell you what I can do for you in a sales way. It was more leading with, help me understand your business, help me understand your needs, help me understand some of your pain points when it comes to managing your people. And that was how I, you know, ended up with a lot of the business that I had, was just investing in those relationships. So it's great to be an entrepreneur, and it's a lot of freedom. But then you have to be diligent. There's a pressure to it as well. You know, like, you know, other people, they get paid for their vacation and their holidays. Well, my business doesn't work like that. You know, right. I'm not working. Yeah, I'm not getting paid.
So I know that was a challenge, and that has been a challenge, but what has been some of the rewards? What have been some of the benefits since you kind of launched into this entrepreneurial role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's the personal and then the business sort of things that I find rewarding. And on the work side of things, what I find rewarding is working with clients when you can, you know, figure out a need or a problem that an organization has and know you can help them with it, whether it be a training program or putting, you know, say an employee handbook in place. You know, I work with a lot of small businesses that they know they're supposed to have something in place, but they're not really sure how to go about it. And so, you know, have to find that balance of human resources. Some of it is definitely the policies and the compliance component, but it needs to be custom to the needs of the business, to the needs of the employees. And so when I can go in and truly see that I've made a difference in an organization, that I've really helped that company be more successful or helped the employees have a voice, is a lot of what I do. So like an engagement survey, you know, a lot of companies once a year, they put out a survey to their employees to just say, you know, how are we doing? What could we do better? And get their feedback. And then sometimes we do discussion groups as a follow-up to that. And so sometimes I can be the voice on behalf of the employees, like, hey, we need to fix X, Y, and Z. These are issues. These are things I'm hearing. So when I can bring that to the table for them and then help enact change, that's really rewarding. And so I love that aspect of my job. I also love that, you know, when you work for yourself, and I have different clients in different industries, every day can be a little bit different. So I get to mix it up in terms of what I do and where I do it and for whom. And I love that. I love keeping it fresh and interesting and new. And I learn so much. I learn a lot about my clients in different industries. So that's fantastic. And then, of course, on the personal side, working for yourself, I have the flexibility of, I was a mom of young kids at the time, and my husband's job didn't allow him to really get away much. And so it was nice. I could be the mom that like brought a cupcake to class or whatever for somebody's birthday,
Right.
and it gave me a little bit more, work-life balance in terms of being able to schedule my schedule the way I wanted to for my family and for my business. And so that's a
Awesome.
nice balance. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, one thing that I definitely want to highlight, and I want people to know who are watching this, is that not only are you involved in your own business and taking care of your personal matters, but you're also very tied into the community. I kind of heard your responses when you talked about your time in college and getting active and finding those things and then coming to Savannah and listening and hearing those things. And but now, like when you say Suzanne Kirk in Savannah, like that name means something. Like it's got some weight behind it. It's leadership Southeast Georgia. The role that you play with that, the great work that you do with Coleman as well. Can you talk about the importance of being active in the community and not necessarily how it impacts your business, but just
Yeah.
how it impacts you as an individual?
Absolutely. That's something that I think comes from a place of just personal passion and interest, right? And I have worked with people that show up on a board of directors or do volunteer work just for the networking opportunity or just to get it on the resume and that kind of thing. And there's a place for that for sure. But I think for me, it's getting involved with organizations that I believe in, being connected to the community. I mean, we are all members of our community and we interact with our community at different levels and in different ways. And so I would encourage everyone to find those opportunities to be involved in a way that matters to them. And it doesn't mean that you have to be able to stroke a big check for a donation. It could be rolling up your sleeves and getting in the dirt and doing hands-on volunteer work, right? There's something that all of us bring. There's talents and gifts that all of us bring. For me, it's, with Rotary is something that I aligned with their mission of the community work and the global work that they do. And being with like-minded people, I think we at Metro Rotary have such a great group of people that represent all different areas of the community in both professionally and in all aspects of diversity. And I think that's so important to have any organization that you can be a part of that really reflects what the community is really like, I think is important. And then being involved with Susan G. Komen has been really something I was passionate about. I lost my mom to breast cancer when I was in my 20s, and my mom was only 52 years old. And so she never got to meet her grandkids. And cancer is something that I don't know one person, that's not touched by cancer in their lives in some way. And that's just unacceptable. And in our community, especially, or in any community like ours, we know that women of color are impacted by breast cancer at much higher rates than white women, and that's not okay, right? So we've got to continue to get that message out there about breast health and access to services and access to healthcare. And that was something that was very passionate, that I was very passionate about, because our family went through it. In our family, we had insurance and we had resources. And I can't imagine someone going through a breast cancer diagnosis or any kind of cancer diagnosis without those resources and without that support. It's just not okay that someone should have to navigate that. So I've been very focused on trying to make my little difference that I can make, because all of us together, we can make a little bit of a difference and move things in the right direction. So certainly encourage folks to find something that they're passionate about, that they're interested in, that they want to be there for the right reasons, and to be a contributing member of our community and making it better.
Right. Well, I think that's great, and I always look forward to the Coleman race to find out what the team name is going to be for the upcoming year, and just finding new ways to get involved. At Woodville, we've had a connection with Coleman, and our students have running a race and often donate and make donations to Coleman as well. So I think that it's awesome the work that you do with Coleman and continue to do with Coleman. But also, again, just in the community, the impact that you have there, I think that's tremendous. And for our students, I think it's important for them to know that yes, you can be great on the job, and that's important. You definitely want to be good at your job, but it's also even more rewarding when you're a great person in your community as well. You get paid a little bit more for being that person as opposed to, just being great at your job. So I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, and it's just rewarding personally as well. It feels good to do good for others as well.
Mhm.
And so it's something that, comes back to you in that way as well.
Awesome. Well, last question that I have is I'm a high school student, or I'm a freshman in college, and I'm getting ready, and I say, you know what, I really want to go into human resources. I want to help people. I want to get involved. What advice would you give someone who's looking to go into the field of human resources?
Oh, I love it. So all of us, no matter where we are in our lives, if you've had a job, you have had some interaction with human resources, right? So every company that employs humans has some aspect of human resource, right? So I would say no matter what job you might have, either right now in high school or at any point, is get to learn and understand the HR processes at that business. They may not be great, they might be awesome. They may be somewhere in between. And even though if it's a small business, they may not have someone that does human resources specifically in their job title, but they are performing functions of human resources, right? So, HR is everything from how do we seek and find individuals to hire them into our organization, bring them on board, train them, set them up for success, pay them accurately, give them some benefits, get them on track when their performance goes off base, right? And all of those things that happen in the life cycle of an employee, there's a lot that goes into that. So my advice would be find the opportunity to learn about the HR functions that are occurring in every job that you have, because you will learn little nuggets of information from various industries. I don't care if it's at a mall, at a fast food place. My first job was at McDonald's. You can learn a little bit about HR no matter where you go. And then just keep continuing that research and that investigation about the field. It does require, most positions in HR are going to require an undergraduate degree. And then, as I mentioned, the Sherm certification is becoming more and more prevalent. A lot of schools have Sherm student chapters as well. So I would look into Sherm. There's a lot of great info on their website that you can access as a non-member. And then there's even more member information once you join the professional association. But look into student chapters or form a student chapter when you're in college. Look at doing something like that and getting more involved in the field. And then take advantage of all of the learning opportunities through either e-learning or webinars or anything that your school offers, professional chapters and whatnot. Take advantage of some of that learning. And then when you're out there and working in your first job, and if you get a job in HR, like I said, know that sometimes we're in a role that maybe it's not my favorite thing to do because it's not my forever job, but you will learn something to take it to the next step. Whether you get into HR from a payroll perspective or benefits and compliance or something that doesn't seem like the glamorous or the portion of HR that's really interacting with people day in and day out, it will get there. And so HR is one of those fields that's got a lot of different perspectives about how you can get into the field and your different specialties within HR. So learn as much as you can in every job about the HR that they offer and continue to educate yourself about the field in general.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time out to chat with us today. And this will be posted onto our YouTube page. And so for those individuals that are joining us now, you can definitely go back and view it. And it will be forever posted on our YouTube page. So you can go back and watch this again. But thank you so much, Ms. Kirk. And we really appreciate your time. And
Thank
students,
you.
make sure you tune in.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much for having me. Take care.
All right.
Thanks, all.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.